Hello, everybody. This is James DeBow on Discovering Season 4, dedicated to original people. And today we got a special guest in. It's Terrence Small, who's going to be interviewing myself. So I'm going to pass the mic over to him. This is the special edition. He's going to be doing a slideshow and much more. How you doing, Terrence?
Hi, James. How you doing?
I'm great. All
right, it's good to be in. So, regular viewers will know that James is the host of the Discovering podcast. But today we're going to do things a bit differently. I'm going to ask him some questions about the show and how it came about and some related topics. So,
thank you.
Yep. We'll start with that. How did the show itself? How did you start the show itself? Going back to series 1.
Okay. The beginning of Discovering.
Yeah.
Well, we got to go to the beginning of me first coming on Big Condo Online, which is now called Liverpool Online, but it was called Big Condo Online. Well, actually, Big Condo Radio. That was the old name. Yeah, taking us back now. Big Condo Radio. It's about August 2020. Remember, just reached out to Chase, and I think Chase must heard about the Renault Rashidi event as well, so we familiar who it was, and Patrick as well, you've spoken to. So yes, he come down, he give me the opportunity to speak about these indigenous peoples around the world and the passion of African history, and as well as so started from there. Then that was a great show. It was a great show. Then he got me back on again with Patrick Graham. The importance of African history. Me and Patrick Graham, and yeah, interesting show again. And then he got me back on the third time to do. It's called The Return.
Yeah.
And this one was like a follow up of the first podcast. So with the first podcast, interviewing me about all the different peoples, the indigenous black peoples around the world in the most secluded places. Fiji, we speaking about the Maasai tribes and their god, and it's going into all kinds, going deep on that. And I really impacted the Bantu civilizations. I've spoke about Bantu more than anybody I know.
Let me just you mentioned Renault Rashidi. I think I've seen him, and you organised an event for him to come to Liverpool a couple of years ago. Was that 2019?
No, it was actually 2020.
2020, yeah. And then since then he's been on the show, is that right? You interviewed him over video link?
Yeah, so 2020, January 15th, I brought him to the Caribbean Centre in Liverpool. He put on a good show, Global African Presence. Kind of a last-minute thing, We had a good turnout. It was excellent. I met him earlier on because I took him to the Garstang Museum.
Yeah.
And then we linked up later. Then he was supposed to come back to do a second event. Unfortunately, he couldn't come because of the pandemic. What happened? He was supposed to come March the 28th, which is a couple of months later. So the next best thing we could do is get him on a Zoom. And the Zoom was like 1 hour, 5 minutes or something. That was the end of 2020. We got him on the Zoom. That was the season 1 of the Discovering show. So that was like a very anticipated Zoom interview because we didn't know if he's ever going to travel again. And also looking back, I mean, we didn't know he was going to pass away. He passed away last
sadly,
August. So rest in peace, the Grandmaster of the Global African Presence, and definitely a big inspiration.
Yeah.
And
that's what I was going to say to you. How did your relationship with Renault actually start? Because how did you actually get in touch with him? Did you email him? Did you drop a comment on a YouTube video or something? Because you seem to be quite close, like good friends, not just colleagues who would share the interest in African history, but you said, look, he's had a good connection, you know what I mean? So can you talk a bit about the personal side? How did you actually come to meet him? How did you get in contact with him?
Okay, in the beginning, when I was going to, first of all, just researching and watching the videos and started studying them, and I was like fascinated by some of these indigenous peoples all over the world and that. So then I decided to start doing these missions because I'm a traveler anyway. I was going to meet the Mayan people. I was going into Fiji Islands. I was going into different people to meet different indigenous peoples. So what happened was Renault Rashidi, I assumed that he had been to the Philippines, Thailand and Malaysia because I wanted to go to these places to visit these indigenous peoples. Now, I assumed because he showed pictures that he had been into those areas to meet those peoples. And he told me he hadn't, but I thought he did at the time. So I was messaging him and I asked him, it was about 2016, I'm about to go to the Philippines. And I said, I want to meet the Etta people who I assumed he met them. So I said, do you know how I can get there? What's the best way? Because you're looking sometimes on the internet and there's different ways you can get somewhere. And sometimes if someone's already been, they could give you the best tips, just like I could give people good tips to get there. Yeah. So he said he's never been there and he can't help me. So it was just back and forth messaging. Then the same as when I went to see the Mani tribe in Thailand 2017, January. I asked him again. I thought he had seen the Mani. I said, could you help me? And he couldn't help me. But he liked that inspiration of wanting to do these things. Yeah. So then Michelle Walker, she was being on this show. She's on season 3. She organised an event for Anok Rashidi to come in 2018 in the Methodist Centre. So that was a good little event, little short event. So from there, I actually met him in person now. So we're having boss discussions. No. And the kind of discussions we're having conversations where I might even be talking about a country I've been to, what Renoko hasn't been. Like I was saying, I've been to Tonga. And he said, I've never been to Tonga. I said, I was talking about me going to Madagascar. And even though he's been 125 countries, there's still more countries to cover. Yeah. We can't all one person cover it. It's a bit difficult, isn't it? Exactly. So if more people were involved in the global African presence, we could get this done. I remember Renoko Rashidi saying that one of the difficult parts of this research of the global African presence, it's not difficult, but he said we need more research, definitely in the Pacific Islands. He also said we definitely need more research in ancient China, the blacks in ancient China, and Japan.
Asia was his main area of interest, wasn't it? I think he spent a lot of time studying indigenous tribes of Asia. Is that correct? Despite his obviously the interest in Egypt and Africa and so on.
I'd say to a degree, because he did go to Egypt about 26 times. He's been to every country, most countries in Africa, so I'm not saying every, but he's been majority. No. He's been everywhere. I'd say you can't even put him in one bracket because you can't just put him on like he's studied the Nile Valley right through. Yeah. He understands it. He's studied been to every different churches around the world, searching for the Black Madonna and Child. He's been to Orthodox churches. He's been to every museum nearly around the world, probably every major library around the world he's been to. So he's put in serious work. Yeah. He's put in serious work, and we just clicked, like I say, and then back and forth. Then he's got a site called on Facebook called In Museums and Tombs. So I, went to join that site, and he allowed me to. He was one of the admins. He allowed me to post a lot of my pictures in on the site, and it was my contribution. Because those pictures I posted were my own pictures of my own experience, where no one is actually posting pictures of their own. It was only Renoko who was posting them, but he didn't have none of the Philippines, of the Etta, of his own pictures. He had friends that went in there, but sometimes different going in yourself and the whole experience. But I'm happy it turned out where I'm able to add on to work. Yeah, and because that's what it's about. It's not just about just repeating every single thing what Renoko said or what Dr. Ben says or John.
You've got to build, haven't you, on top?
You've got to build on top. You've got to be able to work your own mind. And also, being brought up from as Nigerian descent, I already had an African mind. I didn't have to go and look for it. It was already given to me as a child. So I just built on top of that. Yeah. Because I think it's important when you're taught from young and then you decide yourself, I'm going to start researching a lot more. Keep digging. It was just about keep digging. What else am I going to find? Yeah. And like I say, I was fascinated when I seen Renoko Rashidi showing you this global African presence. I didn't know at one time there was indigenous black people still in Asia. Yeah. I knew that there was black people like the CDs taking the slavery and in India. I knew there was the Tang dynasty. There was black people taking it to China, slaves. Some were taking it to Japan. And then they called one of them the Black Samurai. So there's many different, but then the part where I never learned, but I had to learn of people like Renoko Rashidi, Chancellor Williams, was not that presence of African slaves into Asia. the presence of free people building their civilizations way before they even got there.
Yeah, way before.
So then that just like opened up a massive area of research to go into, because it's so underrated. This is a very underrated, but it's very important to know Africans of Asia.
Yeah.
Because look at the size of Asia.
They don't get much publicity, do they, in that part of the world?
Asia's a continent,
China, whatever.
the biggest continent in the world. That has to be an important place of research for black people, melanated peoples. India, for example. Like later, we're going to go into some slides later and that, so I'll save the slides till we get to them. But obviously, back to the show. I did my 4th show with Chase, and he says, I'm going to give you a show. And Chase came up with the name Discovering. Excellent name. And then we worked from there. First guest was on Yamtree and Asher Thomas.
Yeah.
Interesting. 2 vegans.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good way to start off health.
Well, this is what I was going to say. See, you've had a lot of guests on. Wide
yeah.
variety of backgrounds.
A variety.
African immigrants, people who were born in Britain, raised, whatever, but still got the African ancestry.
Bermuda.
Some guests. I liked Errol Graham.
Errol Graham.
He broke down the Christian Orthodox
Orthodox Christianity.
Give a good lesson. I liked Zabdi Uchechi.
Yeah.
I like Michelle Walker, Nazir Elliott. There's been a lot of guests on, and they've been brilliant, all of them. But
yeah,
I don't want to ask you who your favourite is, obviously, because they're all good friends and stuff. But can you talk about just between season 1? You finished season 4, is that right?
Well, this is the end of season 4 right now.
So
yep.
Can you pick just a couple of the interviews that you've done through that period that
stand out?
Some highlights for yourself.
Okay. I can like them for different reasons. If we're just focused on knowledge, then we're gonna knowledge wise, and not just knowledge. I like deep knowledge as well. I like spirituality. I like people who have that passion themselves about Africa and understand that this is important. So one of the guests on the first season, a guest who definitely stood out was Raz Congo.
Yeah, brilliant.
On the first season.
He lives in Africa, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. He was now Renoka Rashidi, he was the big guest on season 1.
Yeah.
So Renoka Rashidi, Raz Congo. This is season 1, isn't it? I'm trying to think who's else. Yeah, the vegans one was good, Asher and Abraham. And the 2 Misha Estridge, Reiki.
Yeah.
And also Alicia Fariak. I thought that was a good one as well, because you got to have like different people,
You've had musicians, haven't you, and actors and people from all kinds of different backgrounds, whatever.
Patrick Graham, of course.
Yeah, brilliant.
Definitely go back and forth with Patrick. We had Lawrence Westcalf.
Yeah.
That was a lot of knowledge he was dropping from 300 years of Liverpool and other just issues in general.
Dave Clay, sorry, now that you mentioned 300 years
that
of
was
Liverpool.
That was powerful, Dave Clay.
Yeah.
That was season 3. That definitely stood out. Also, Gunan was alright, as good as well. We deal with a lot of spirituality. Zabdi, powerful brother.
Yeah.
Most definitely. It's easy to flow with Zabdi. You know what I'm saying? He's, we similar peoples, man. And we go back anyway to Nigeria. And yes, also, we can, Joseph Adekoya.
Yeah, the chef.
Just give me some, help me out with some names. Cause
they're all good ones that you've just gone through there, because I haven't seen them all, but I've seen most of them, and I like them.
Okay.
And Patrick's been in a couple of times, hasn't he?
Oh, definitely.
To do
Jay Blades is a good one as well.
Yeah, Jay's brilliant.
I thought, he's got a good accent as well.
Yeah.
He's smooth with his voice.
You've just had him in, haven't you, recently?
Yeah, recently. Yeah. And then there was another guy called Adrian Dallas. I don't know if you've watched that. Come out yesterday?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Excellent podcast. The spiritual brother, Rasta concepts he was dealing with. He's a musician as well.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Nazir Elliott, powerful.
Yeah.
That was powerful one. That was going in hard there. I'm trying to think now. Yourself as well. AWOL.
Yeah.
You the first time, actually.
That was a bit of a different story, that, wasn't it?
I thought that was very interesting. I'll give you what was I thinking when I asked you to come on and speak about AWOL, what was going on in my head. I thought, you know what? I'm not really a person who's with joining up in armies, and I'm not really. I like peace. I'm not, you know what I mean. But whatever, anyway. So when you joined, and I felt like, well, you're kind of joining the enemy, if you want to call it that. You know what I mean? Whatever. But when you went AWOL, I thought that story was more interesting. It was like, well, you come to a reality, and the end thing is, like, we can all make mistakes, or we can all, this is our path, but then there has to be a time when we decide, oh, this is for us, or this is not for us. And it seemed like that. I enjoyed that conversation with you.
Yeah, of course.
It's not just your average conversation, do you know what I mean? Because you could have been in some of these countries and not come back and survived.
Yeah. You're just lucky to get out in time, isn't it? I guess, as always.
That was one of the.
It's a lesson, isn't it? Lesson learned, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And then many other guests. Who else can we talk upon?
Who's been on?
Who's
Chase was good.
Vincent Clegon.
Vincent, another
Clegon.
Author.
Yeah, author.
Yeah.
Definitely good. Yeah. Very interesting. And you can see his experience has been going long time in this. So I definitely enjoyed this one as well. Yeah.
So is this the last season 4, or are you doing the season 5?
Season 5 in the future. Yeah. Not gonna rush straight away to do.
Do you know? Have you got anyone in mind that you'd like to get on, or you've been trying to, or maybe you'd want to approach for an interview, who you've tried before and haven't got it going, or whatever? Or anyone in mind? Anyone from even the guys in America who you follow? You know
I've got most of the guests on who have wanted. There's some guests. I'm waiting for someone to come down from Leeds. He's a musician, Esther the Boss. Good musician, good rapper. And he's a reason why I rate him, because I remember as a child starting off as a singer. So it wasn't like he came in 25 or age 20 and decided that I'm going to be a rapper. Yeah. Singer from a child. Rapping from 12, 11. Very talented, good voice, smooth. Might be a bit like Biggie. Esther the Boss. And yeah. But when he gets time, because it's difficult sometimes for people to come down, we've got to fit people in. But, you know, I help out a lot. You know, I sometimes pick my guest up.
Yeah.
Because there's ways to try to make things work. Like, cut out all the excuses I tried to cut out. Oh, someone can't get up here too far. Okay, let me cut that excuse out. I'll pick it up then. And then there could be another excuse. I don't know where it is. Well, I can take the postcode, or like I say, I can pick it up. Or some people might think it's far.
Some people just don't want to be in the hot seat, man. I'm telling you, because it's hard to answer these questions sometimes. You know, even if it's just basic questions about your life.
Yeah.
People struggle, like, you know, to say it in front of cameras.
Yeah.
So you just need time.
Well, I've seen that also where some people could come on and I think, like, well, off the mic, they seem very confident, and then on the mic, they can be quite quiet and that.
Exactly.
Your debate was also good. A lot of people talked about your debate. Evolution.
They're calling for the second. They're calling for the second one, aren't they?
There's definitely on a season 5 soon, and we're gonna definitely get that. Maybe that might even be the first one. Now I'll update Chase and I'll update Curtis Watts is interested in this debate.
Yeah, we should bring Curtis in and do like a 3. I think
it's gonna be the 3 years.
Yeah.
So Curtis felt he should have been there that day. Now Curtis is into cosmology and consciousness, and much more as well. So I thought, okay, this will expand this, because many people were talking about this debate. Some people thought you won. Actually, most people thought you won. Because they felt that you were more structured. And then some people might have thought, well, Joe was more, because if you're into creation, or you might have a religion, then you might favour.
Sometimes it starts to open your mind to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
As I'm not saying that's the case with Joe, because he seems to be the opposite. Yeah. He's open, you know what I mean?
But it's great to expand our minds. Why not? That's, you know, let's exercise our minds, and maybe I can learn from you, maybe you can live, and then you can learn from each other.
Yeah, and it's always a bonus, isn't it, when it goes well, without, you know, personal attacks. We had that discussion, and there was no, you know, bad blood. Everything was cool. It's good to have a discussion, you know.
Also, we had Ashley Nugent on the first time.
Yeah.
You know, that was interesting. His story, Locks, his experience in Jamaica when he was 17, in a dungeon jail, and multiple stab wounds he suffered, and that was a serious story. I'm trying to think of more guests anyway. You know, Chase Johnson Lynch. That was a great interview.
The American perspective.
Yeah. we worked with Wu-Tang before. And
shout out Wu-Tang.
I was also interested to see, like, well, okay, you're from America, but now you're in Liverpool. Why did you come here? And how do you find it here? I wanted to know from an American perspective of how do you see England or Liverpool?
Yeah.
So definitely interesting.
Yeah, I watched it. It was good. Yeah, so hopefully you can get some, some heavy hitters in for the next one as well.
I also did a Zoom the other day with Jenny Lynn James. She's living out in Mexico now. She lived in Toronto, born in Trinidad, food scientist, and a painter artist. She was also on Dragon's Den. So some good guests who could talk good as well.
Yeah, it has been good.
And then Daniel Estridge, of course. I had to
family.
Yeah, I had to put him on there because he came on the trip with me to Malaysia and Indonesia, and when we went to visit the indigenous peoples, and I gave him props for coming.
Yeah,
and it was
big step.
He went too into traveling, but then when he came, he changed his mindset of things, where there is something out there. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's about. We all gotta get our inspiration of someone, or someone has to point to something or show you something, and then
once you've been once, you can't get enough. Then
yeah.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, I've enjoyed the Discovering show, and what I've learned from it myself, from first season to second season to third to fourth, I've learned that I can hold my own, I can hold the talk, I can hold the conversations. I'm built with the stamp, and not only that is I'm very consistent in my approach as a black conscious person. I don't have people want to make me fit into any narrative that I shouldn't be fitting into.
Yeah.
I don't believe in I have to structure my conversations how people expect you to. Sort of like a bit of the conversation with Patrick and about how people expect them to write. And the same with interviewing, everything. Sometimes people expect you to do something, but I'm authentic because I don't know too many people. I don't come across people who share my story.
It's because you're independent as well, so it's easier to be authentic, isn't it?
So to tell me how I should do it, and you can't point out someone who shares my story, or you don't yourself. So it's and this is my approach. How I do a podcast is the same type of approach when I'm going to meet an indigenous tribe, whether he speaks English or not. I'm connecting spiritually. It's naturalism. I don't want to put an act on just because I'm on, camera. Because at the end of the day, before they even did the shows, since the last 25 years, I've just been on some conscious stuff. And, even when you remember me when I was called Adania. When I was 12, 13, I decided I wanted to become a Muslim at that time.
Yeah.
Because that's how deep my mind was from young. So I was advanced from young, and I was studying the Malcolm X, studying the Panthers.
How did you get into that? Was that through someone in the family being a Muslim, or did you just pick that up in school? Or
I just picked it up. No one was Muslim around me at the time in the family. Later on, some family members did become Muslim, but at that time, I was the only person who decided.
That's a good point, because there was a lot of conversions came later.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was around the 2000s, but I remember there's a period a lot of people are starting converting to Islam. You know what I mean? But growing up, like you said, in Calderstones, 90s, whatever. Don't remember too many. The only Muslims I remember was the Arabs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because at the time,
no black Muslims, not many.
Now I didn't last long as being a Muslim because I don't like to be put in a box. I respect the practices, what they do, and I can relate to a lot of them, but I don't want to be a religion. I'm a spiritual person, and I'm a free spirit. And when I say free spirit, even though I connect to an Ijaw tribe of Nigeria, but I also connect to other tribes as well, because a lot of our people in Africa are connected. There's Bantus all over Africa. So sometimes we can think on our small geographical tribe and area, but then sometimes we have to expand the mind where it's like the true spirit, the bigger spirit. Africa, the spirit. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's what it's about. It's and I'm African, and I've got Trinidad as well. So with the Trinidad, I always mention there's missing links. So with the Nigerian, I've got the missing links, and that's how it is.
Yeah. So did you find out where? I remember you were talking about your grandparents from Trinidad. Did you find out where they were from in Africa? Or do you not know that?
Okay, my granddad is born in Trinidad. His dad born in Guyana,
Oh, okay.
South America. As far as we know, through DNA test, majority of the African that comes up Benin, Benin and Togo, and also Nigeria as well. Some Nigerian comes up. So I think Benin and Nigeria are the largest on the Trinidad side.
Yeah.
So it's like I just lump it all in with Nigerian.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
all African, isn't it?
it's all African and West African, Bantu peoples.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
So are you ready to move? Do you want to move on to your PowerPoint or?
Okay, yeah. So we're going to start off with the slideshow now.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, then. Let's get to the first slide. Now, this is Africa, of course, the motherland. Now, just one map is just the countries, and obviously these countries are Europeans have chopped them up and other people. So, other side is the resources: gold, coffee, grains, tea, diamonds, cotton, uranium, iron, cocoa, oil, copper, gold. You just go forever, diamonds. So, this is the land of the resources, which people have known for thousands of years. People have relied on Africa from the earliest times. Well, we were all in Africa at one time, of course, and then obviously they say, well, let's deal with it like from the evolution perspective. From the evolution perspective, they say that, you know, they're coming from this common ancestor, and then 200,000 years ago, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, the borders around that area, humanity of the first modern humans. That's according to, but then we could go on to Egyptians. They can have their creation stories, just like when you and Joe were having discussions. So as we get into some slides, I'm going to go to the next slide now. So just putting it on the motherland, Africa. Okay, let me just get on. Okay, the next slide. Indigenous Egyptians now. Now, what's interesting about this one is if you look at the picture where there's 4 people now. Okay, you can clearly see that is the Egyptian, the original Egyptian before invaders came. If you look at the C, the other brother, that's the other Africans from Nubia and places like Kush. If you look at B is the Indo-European, because they at one time were trying to, you know, they come for trade in Africa, or whether they come to invade or learn. So D is the Semite. Now, some people, they ask questions about Semites. What color is a Semite? If you come from a religious perspective, you can get into your arguments of what color were they. But just coming from a historical perspective, you can clearly see what they are in D. Like an Arab type.
They're Semites, are they?
Yeah, when we say Arab, I mean like people of Western Asia. That's what they are described as a Western Asia. They came from places like Mesopotamia. You know, these kind of places. So, look at the date. The date is, it's only around 1200 BC times. The times of Ramses III, who I have a connection to from my father's line, going back thousands of years. You know, so that was another thing. So it's just about who is the Egyptians, who were the real Egyptians. So we're going to go into some slides from other Egyptians. Okay. Now, this is like a Nubian. You know, they're still in Egypt now, but Aswan. So people in Aswan might look a bit different to people in the invaders, Arabs, Turks, Europeans. Now, where did the Egyptians say they came from? Now, this is what I spoke to a Maasai tribe chief about this to confirm it, and I also listened to Dr. Ben Yoshi Ben Yakinen. The ancient Egyptians clearly defined their African origins in the Papyrus of Hunefer. We came from the beginning of the Nile, where God happy dwells at the foothills of the mountains of the moon. And this is dealing around Kenya, you know, Uganda areas, because he says Uganda the civilization came up from there. Kilimanjaro, you know, you've heard of that mountain, isn't it? You know, these are sacred mountains, and these are all, the Egyptians originated in Africa, south of the Sahara. You know, these are things that are very important to know, because otherwise we don't even know what we're dealing with, you know. So, number one, King Name, you know, took Egypt back. Why did he take Egypt back? Was it just down to beef? Some people just seen it as beef, and it just wanted to conquer. What he was basically doing is he was taking the true way back. He wanted to install what was once there before the two lands they say were separate. So when they say the two lands were separate, from a European perspective, it was just down to the Egyptians were white people, Eurasian people, and Semitic. They just mixed it in with whatever they could. From an African perspective, like people like Dr. Ben, we seen it as well, and Chancellor Williams, that we weren't happy about the Egyptians taking on the gods of the outsiders, the cult of Horus and all this stuff. So, because we knew that there's the one divine creator from the beginning. Now, how you choose to view monotheism is down to your own perception, because the Maasai tribes are considered as monotheistic. You have the Yoruba, who considered as monotheistic, but some people want to choose which is monotheistic and which is not. But you've got to understand the concept of God. You know, do you see God as a man in the sky? I think that's silly. It's, you know, what way can you come to that conclusion? But that's just opinions. Where people, there was the one divine creator that is connected to everything, every living thing, or plants, animals, anything, you know. So it's the one source. Now you can deal with the yin and yang, negative, positive, laws of opposites, male, female. You can just make all opposites, but it's all connected to the one source, and that's mostly how our ancestors viewed things, you know. So Kilimanjaro, you know. So I done a safari out in Kenya, and it's just spectacular. When people say Africa is like a rough place, and you know, you go to this part of Africa, yeah, it's too amazing. But unfortunately, you know, times are changing, and that, you know, the Nile River, obviously the biggest river in the world, you know. So, and you can see Kush. And it's interesting when you look at these maps where you're reading it from a different perspective, like Kush, Sudan, you know, Ethiopia. Yeah, Ethiopia was called Meroe, you know, and then later on you can see these names like Kush in India, later on, ancient India. So that's an interesting one. Now this pyramid, I wanted to show because it's the oldest pyramid in Egypt. It's not the Pyramid of Giza, which is everyone talks about.
That's put forward as the oldest, isn't it?
I don't know why. I don't know what. See, that's why I like to show the unpopular. I don't want to show what just everyone. So look, 2630 BC. You know, this is like it's the Pyramid of Dosha. You know, it was also is widely believed to be the oldest pyramid in the world. It dates to 2630 BC. Construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza being 2560 BC. 70 years later, they believe it is. Now, I don't know why that this doesn't get people talk upon it, but this should be the special, because it's the beginning of Egypt. Even though we can go to Sudan and it's older than then. But,
and where's this? Sorry, whereabouts in Egypt? This one
in Egypt. This is.
Is this like in the north or in the south, or?
This is this would be the north. This is Pyramid of Zoser. Not sure exactly what location.
And he was the pharaoh.
Yeah. So people just underestimate. Now this is an important one because you know, we get told that the Sphinx is 2559 BC.
We do.
That's what we get told. So I thought I'll bring on other anthropologists and other archaeologists, and you know, I like to bring on other people. So Robert Bauval, now he, according to him, two of the world's leading experts of the ancient pre-dynastic megalithic culture, introduces us to their new book, Origins of the Sphinx, with dramatic look at the evidence of advanced civilization over 10,000 years old.
Wow.
So who do we like? How do we decide? Like, I mean, why do we always have to listen to the popular narrative? You know, why don't these people get the airplay? These have to go and GoFundMe. They have to go and they're quite independent, and that's what
you
I've
see this, don't you,
gravitated.
across a couple of different sciences where the outsiders can't get in to show their,
Yeah,
perspective, whatever.
that's it. You know. Then we got King Nami, who we were talking about before, came into power after the King Scorpion before this amazing king of Egypt was divided into two parts. So as I was going by, the two lands separated. Obviously, in the lower Egypt, the agricultural, moreover, the developed significance, yeah. And nearby southern Canaan, that's important to name Canaan, as we have different names. So he was the first pharaoh of Egypt. But when we deal with the first pharaoh, remember there's pre-dynastic dynasties as well. So we don't actually know how far back we go. Dr. Ben puts it about 1,000 years before. Some of them believe that it took 1,000 years to figure out who families are going to rule. So deep into the... Okay, the pyramid text. So pyramid text, the 5th dynasty, is the earliest known text to constitute the oldest surviving body of Egyptian religious and funerary writings available to modern scholars. Now, this pyramid text, later on, these the coffin text, which is a copy of that. Then you've got the Book of the Dead. So say this got destroyed, we go to the coffin text to try and find the surviving bits. If that got destroyed, you got the Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead gets destroyed, then we have to start going to religion or other sources. So anyway, now, according to Professor James Smalls, he believes this is a copy of something that existed thousands and thousands of years before. So that's very important to know. Don't just take the date literally. It could have been copied off because the coffin text was copied off that. Book of the Dead copied off the coffin text. So that could have been a copy of something.
Yeah.
But, that's something that we're working on now. Okay. The Ankh, the feminine principle, nature, spirituality, and peace. And then the cross, based on masculine principles of theocracy, politics, and war. The Ankh is the key of life. Man, woman, and child. And then you see man, woman, child equals life. That's how you get life, isn't it? So. All right. Now we're moving to Sudan. Now, the pyramids in Sudan are older than Egypt. And Egyptians have their origins in Sudan. So if you look at this, 5,000 years old. So they were already building pyramids before Egyptians, much, much earlier. And the Sudanese, they're Nubians. They're like one and the same peoples. So, you got mixed people in the north of Sudan, and, they might have mixed with Arabs and Turks in the last whatever. So South Sudan's usually the darkest people you find. Sudan, the name Sudan, the land of the blacks. That's what Sudan means. And, Sudan, these are the original peoples of Sudan, Okay, the Kingdom of Kush, ancient depictions, just like, the same from back in the day. People still look the same, people dress the same, people who live the ancient traditions. Now, these are the Dinka people in Sudan. These are the tallest people, probably. Well, the tallest Africans anyway. And maybe even some of the tallest people in the world. Now, there used to be a lot more of these, and there was talks that people could have deliberately tried to exterminate these people, like Europeans. That's a whole nother topic anyway, but the very tall people, very, I don't even know what the average height is. Ethiopia, 2.8 million years ago, could Lucy's kind, which belonged to species Australopithecus afarensis, have evolved into the very first primitive humans? That was arguing, said Professor Villamore. Okay, so like I said,
That's the theory, isn't it?
Yeah, we can argue all day and say I don't believe man come from other common ancestors with apes, or I believe in creation, but whatever it is, I'm open to listen to different things. So I don't believe we come from apes. I can't see the point. But, let's not get into that. Okay. Ethiopian Empire, Aksum. And as you can see, it's stretching into what we call Saudi Arabia, well, Yemen, and going into Saudi Arabia. And yeah, Aksumite empires. So these Ethiopians, these were very important. There was trade routes that they used to go to India, following the monsoon winds, and that was the trade, and also set up the Indus Valley civilization in India. So Ethiopians, they're definitely very ancient peoples. Pyramids of Meroe. This is Meroe in Ethiopia. And pyramids, when we hear about, we can talk about the Orthodox Christianity, but that doesn't have nothing to do with pyramids, does it? It's a separate thing. If you're talking about the pyramids of Egypt, for example, that's nothing to do with modern religions, is it?
No, this predates.
Yeah, so, I'm more fascinated by structures than I am churches. Even though I'm still willing to learn, I'm more interested in about some of the ancient powers. Okay, architecture of Aksum. An old map. I want to point out this map. Old map from about 1665 showing all of Africa being called Ethiopia, and the Atlantic Ocean was the Ethiopian Ocean. Interesting. Then people also decided we're going to call Sudan, that went across from East Africa to West Africa, right to the bottom of sub-Saharan Africa. Arabs were calling that Sudan.
Yeah.
The land of the blacks, where they have not conquered, so they decide this is going to be the land of the blacks. So Ethiopia, the name. Now Ethiopia, it's not about the country. It was talking about the Greeks referred to Ethiopia, all Africa, Ethiopia at one time. Yeah. Now these are interesting. Somali Bantus. We don't talk about these too much. Now you're only going to research them yourself or come across them. Somali Bantus are in the south. The part of the Bantu expansion, which thousands of years ago, people spread around, free people. Also, there was time where some Europeans took some slaves, African slaves, to south of Somalia as well. So they're underrepresented. So if you think about it in Somalia, you want to see how the Bantu get treated.
So are they a minority, are they, in Somalia?
They are a minority, But these are our people. That's what this is why we've got to identify things around the planet. Because if our people are getting destroyed or mistreated, which they are in certain places like Ukraine or certain other places, so we've got to identify who our people is. Because we're so cut off, people have different names, different colonizations. Then we start losing track. Yeah. But that's not about another Somali Bantu, more than the south. And I think it's down to you have to speak to people. We have to all speak to people about any country you want to know about. Speak to the local people about it. Sometimes they don't know. Sometimes they do know. Whereas our Maasai tribes. Maasai tribes are a Nilo-Saharan. Nilo-Saharan, you have Bantu, who comes under Niger-Congo. You have Khoisan, who are like South African. They have like the slanty eyes a bit in Namibia. You also have Cushitic. So you have different Africans. So the Engai, sometimes he's called Enkai and sometimes called Engai. So two manifestations. So good things and bad things. The black god is the good and beloved, brings grass and prosperity. He is found in thunder and rain, Enki. Now the red god is vengeful, brings famine, hunger. He is found in lightning and is identified with the dry season. The importance of cattle to the Maasai can be traced back to the religion of Enkai. Today's most Maasai people are Christians and very few are Muslims. So these are important things because I'm more interested in their traditions, not what is being imposed. Because I spoke about a lot of these things because I always like to see, have you gravitated towards modern day things or what have you kept intact from the past? That's what I'm interested in. Okay, traditional diet, the Maasai's. Now, I remember that he was mixing cow's blood with milk. And if you look at the diet, fat, honey, tree bark, curdled milk. I refuse to try the blood, the cow's blood with the milk. I didn't want any. He said it helps with hangovers also. But But it's supposed to be what they do. They can preserve for like 8 days. That's basically it, you know. So fresh Kilimanjaro, amazing lions, you know. Okay, the Bantu peoples in Kenya. Because we just showed you the Nilo Saharan. Now we're showing you the Niger Congo people. Niger Congo means that will. This is a branch. Bantus are the branch of Niger Congo. If you get me, Niger Congo is an older language. It's an older area. Okay, so the Kamba people, you know, these have been in Kenya for at least about. After the Nilo Saharan came, about 3000 BC. They came from South Sudan. That's the Maasai tribes. And then obviously later the Bantu came into Kenya around about 2000 BC. Some say 1500 BC. But that's so, sometimes you might see Kamba and you might not know these are Bantu. So it's because they're known as Bantu, but they end up branching off into their own tribes. It's just like Nigeria. How many tribes in Nigeria?
Yeah.
At one time, tribes were smaller.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
break
saying?
off to a subdivision.
They break off. That's it. Yeah. So you got to identify who are the Bantu people wherever we go. So when people say, "Well, what's Kenya like? What are the Kenyan people like?" Well, then that makes me think. Well, hang on a second. We talking about our people there, the Bantu. I can tell you about them. The agricultural farmers. They did this, and they pretty much just consistently. So I found studying the Bantu an easier way to learn African history because they're 35% of African people. They make up the continent, you know. Okay, this is important. Okay, the Maasai religion, the Maasai people are monotheistic, and their god is named Engai or Enkai, a god who is mostly benevolent and who manifests himself in form of different colors, according to his feelings, his experiences. And they always do that jump as well. They can jump high, really high. So, yeah. More, not Bantus, no, these are more Nilo-Saharan Maasai's. Okay.
Did you visit these when you went to Kenya?
Yeah. And I met the chief, and I found out that I didn't know women could be chiefs. She was about 99, 100.
Wow.
And I felt blessed to meet her. Yeah. So they hunt lions anyway, yeah. And I remember them telling me about the lions and that. They were saying that the more lions the male hunts is considered bravery, but he also will have more wives. The more lions you kill, the more wives. That was the phrase they say. You'll have, you know. So in them kind of environments, I mean, you better be around some tough people if you got lions. Because remember, they're not using guns to kill the lions. You know, they use them spears and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so that was interesting. Bantu Kenyans again. Originally from southeast Nigeria, the Bantu people. Many Bantus are Muslim Christians and follow traditional animistic religions, spirits in natural objects and surroundings. I see this everywhere. More Bantu people again. Okay, the Bantu are the majority in Africa. When the Bantu, this is very important, this quote here, very important. The spread of the Bantu culture, when the Bantu moved, they often encountered other people. These other peoples would have two choices. One, join the Bantu. Two, move away to other land. We were the strongest Africans, and there's much more deeper, there's much more deeper things with the Bantu though. And yet, still others follow traditional animistic religions, believing spirits are found in natural objects and surroundings. They may feel a spiritual presence in the rocks, trees, or waterfalls, or a particular beautiful place in the forest. They believe evil and good can manifest itself into anything.
Yeah.
You know, so. Okay, Bantu people in Uganda, but everywhere, we're just everywhere. So part of the spread of the Bantu migration, he went right for Uganda. Batwa people, very short people, interesting. I think these people, and even like Renaud Rashidi said, probably could be some of the oldest people in the world, the short, statured black people, wherever we go in the world. So these are very interesting. Now, Batwa, the tribe in Uganda, call them Pygmies or call them the Twa. For over 60,000 years, according to anthropologists, The indigenous forest people lived in harmony with the gorillas. I thought that was boss. Living in harmony with gorillas. The Batwa are believed to be some of the first inhabitants of the earth and the original inhabitants of East Africa, Great Lakes. Mozambique, Bantu people again, just part of the migration, same thing. Madagascar, lovely place. I enjoyed Madagascar. These are indigenous people of Madagascar. Now, there's a funny one with Madagascar because how it got populated from scientific research, yeah, I'll talk about my own on top. Scientific research is basically, did Indonesian people get there as part of the Austronesian expansion? The Austronesian expansion was, you know, where people went into Polynesia? Okay, so from going back in, this goes into Asia basically. From Taiwan and south of China, the Austronesian expansion began. Now, these Austronesian people wouldn't be considered as pure Mongol. They would be like a mixture of Mongoloid and black aboriginals in Taiwan, south of China. They've worked their way up into Southeast Asia, into the Pacific, and also seafarers into Madagascar. So these basically are part of the Austronesian expansion. Great seafarers. They got all the way to the Pacific, Easter Islands, and talks of South America. But they like to write off Africans sometimes, where, yeah, they do talk about the Bantu got there as free people, and they do give us that we were seafarers and got to Madagascar. But they throw little things in there, like, and things like, well, did the Indonesians bring Africans from East Africa as slaves to Madagascar? They always have to throw little things in. Well, how do you know we didn't bring them as slaves?
Yeah.
It's always like people conquering us. Do you know what I mean? So the Bantu got there. The Indonesians got there. Now, who got there first? Well, according to my research, when I looked on top, I seen an elephant bird, an extinct mammal, 10,000 years old. I was telling Renault Rashidi about this on the Zoom. And do you know by the slits in his throat that he had to be in human occupation in Madagascar 10,000 years ago? So I was researching into that. And it was an elephant bird, an extinct mammal. So they knew that it was human occupation. But to keep it like suppressed, it's like, let's keep it confused. I don't want you to believe Africans just sailed there. And, you know, I'm not with all that, though. We just got to go. That's why we've got to dig deep. It's up to those different faces of Madagascar. You know, like I said, people from different places have gone there, you know, and they've got different, they do have some of their own traditional ways, but you can see many different looks. Okay.
Yeah, there's some Asian-looking people, isn't there?
Well, they came from Indonesia and places like that. Bantu and Austronesian migration to Madagascar. Now, as you can see on the top, you've got the Austronesian migration. It's a big migration, that, isn't it? And I trust them to bump into the Bantu people of all people. Because you can read something about the Bantu and the Austronesian. They compare them to each other. There's certain people who are like, well, they're kind of similar to the Austronesians. Like the way to make a massive expansion. Yeah. So now they clash it together, but then you can look deeper into it and say, well, yeah, what about the people in Fiji? Why are they saying they come from Africa? Maybe people from Madagascar went to Indonesia and brought some Indonesians back to Madagascar. You know, like they only looking from certain scopes.
Yeah.
So we've got to be fair. Okay, a supreme being, once again. Most people practice traditional religions which tend to emphasize links between the nearly half of Madagascar has indigenous beliefs, the worship of a supreme being, once again, called Andrea Manitre, and see the ancestors as a passage between the living and the dead. This religion is also includes sacrificing Zebus and the living, forest of Madagascar. A spectacular view. This probably is the largest island in the world of tropical rainforest zones. Definitely.
Do they have the, because it's isolated?
Yeah.
Do they have species there that, don't exist on the mainland?
Oh,
kind of like what you see in Papua New Guinea.
You talking about, like, say...
Even, like, down to small things like butterflies and that. Do these places, the breakaway, usually have...
They will have a lot of... You got to go and find them, though.
Did you go there once?
Yeah, I went there
right.
once.
Yeah.
I like Madagascar, though. I was very curious about that place. Now, another place some people might not consider as Africa is Mauritius.
Yeah.
It's Africa. Doesn't matter if the majority of people are Indians there because they only came in the 1800s or something. Yeah. So, now let's talk about how Mauritius was, how they tell us it was colonized. They deal with the Portuguese, they try to take the credit, just like they try to take credit for Cape Verde and things like that. But you look into it and then you find Arabs are there. But the Moors, okay, Mauritius was first discovered by the Moors. This is corroborated by the earliest existent historical evidence of the island on the map, produced by the Italian cartographer Alberto Cantino in 1502. The three islands like Ray Reunion, Mauritius, and there's another island there. So these were known by the Moors. So the name Mauritius, they might tell you that the was it the French guy or the I don't read Portuguese. The second name was Mauritius or something like that. But the name Moor is deeper than that. It's much more deeper than that. Do you know what I mean? But
I think it comes from Moor itself, doesn't it?
It does, but I don't know how they always do it. Because even the name Moor itself, all these names like Moor and this and that, they all come out of this Moor. If you want to really go deep into it. Great Zimbabwe, showing the people, Bantu people once again. Now, when I started sussing that the Bantus were responsible for these structures, not just we moved about and we were farmers, I'm looking at structures as well. So this is where it was leading me closer to Bantu people in ancient Egypt. All things like this led me closer to find out there was Bantus in Egypt, studying how the structures that they built, loads of things about, Khoisan. Now, if you look at their eyes, you can see like Asian, and I did used to wonder, did they mix with Chinese people or Japanese people in ancient time? But then, according to Renault Rashidi and many more, Diop, no, they took them looks into Asia.
Oh, okay.
And that was interesting.
So the opposite again?
Yeah, it was the opposite. So, when we talk about things that are unique, Africa is the most unique, diverse.
Yeah.
So many different looks around Africa, the Khoisan, peoples believe in a supreme being, once again, who presides over daily life and controls elements of environment. In some Khoisan belief systems, God is worshipped through the ritual or small sacrifices. A second evil deity brings illness and misfortune. Yeah. The Sambushmen speak numerous dialects of groups of languages known as characteristics. Clicks, have you ever heard the Click language?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't even speak it. But anyway, that's supposed to be one of the oldest languages, Click.
So they have it in Namibia?
Yeah. So these people, these are like small tribes, and these are minorities of, they would have been in other parts of Africa at one time, but they were even actually in Kenya before the Bantu and the Maasai come. The Bantu and the Maasai just sandwich them out, basically, because strong survive. Zulus, we've all heard the Zulus. Yeah, well, Bantu people again.
Oh, wow.
That's why I love this Bantu thing. This is my topic right through. Once you make the Bantu connection, things start becoming easier rather than say, well, oh, that's different. Let's look what's the same, and we go on the straight path from there. Okay, they originated from Nguna communities who took part in the Bantu migration over millennia as clans integrated together. The rulership of Shaka brought success to Zulu nation due to his improved military tactics and organizations. We were the fighting people as well. Powerful. Namibia, just like I'm showing the faces of different Africans. We don't all look exactly the same. We have different features. Even look at the hair. Look like the one with the shorter hair. And then you look at the one with how it grows. Himba tribes of Namibia, Bantu people again. Pygmy people in Congo. Okay. Now, if you look on this little map here, this is a map of where Pygmy people are in Africa. The Twa, the Mongo, Baka, which is in Cameroon, Congo. We've got a lot of places, the Great Lakes. Very short people. And I do believe that these are the oldest people on the planet. And these same people are very similar to these Southeast Asian tribes I've encountered. And some of these tribes in India, some of these tribes are in Tasmania. Well, they're probably extinct now, the original Tasmanian. Congo, Bantu people. Egyptian language. Now, this is very important. Clyde Winters. This is definitely a very important person. Clyde Winters. Okay. The Mountain of the Moon, Niger Congo speakers, and the origin of Egypt. So there's a connection of Bantus. Niger Congo is Bantu. Bantu come out of Niger Congo. So when you see Niger Congo, Bantu, recognize it. It's pretty much one and the same. You know, just different.
And there's a connection with Egypt?
Yeah, that's it. There's linguistics. And there's linguistics. There's many ties because everyone has their connections to Egypt. Now, very interesting one. The oldest mathematical tool in the world. The Ashanga bone found in Congo, 20,000 BC. You know, might be the earliest example of the tally stick in ancient memory aid device to record and document numbers, quantities, or even messages, historical references. You know, so very, very interested, the oldest mathematical tool. Cameroon, of course, a Bantu people again. I love their architecture there. Amazing. Now, these are small people who we were talking about before about the Twa related group, but they're called the Baka people in Cameroon. Pygmies, and, you know, 1.52 meters, 152 meters though. Wow, very small. Angola, yeah, and also Bantu people again in Angola, you know, so a part of the cultural rituals marking such passes as birth or death, childhood to adulthood, and the harvest of the hunting season in producing masks and other items from bronze, ivory, wood, you know, and much more. Zambia, Bantu people again. And what you got to look at is look at the faces of Bantus, and it's able to make, because when I was younger and I didn't know about a Bantu connection, I was able to identify, which you probably can yourself, the phenotype which looks similar in certain parts of Africa, where you could probably figure out they're kind of related.
Yeah, of course,
you know, just by looking, you know. Okay, wow, Nigeria, yes, our hometown. Okay, this is the oldest boat in Africa. The Dafuna canoe. 8,000 years ago, Africans invented the Dafuna canoe. And it's the oldest boat. And it's in northern Nigeria. And it was dug out. Not culture of Nigeria. You know, everyone has their own civilizations. And you can see with their architect. Look at the style. That's modernism. When, you know, these are like things from 1500 BC. So they're... Start 3,500 years ago. So this is the kind of skills they had back then.
They were smelting iron as well, apparently.
Smelting iron as well, also. And that comes out of a Bantu thing as well, smelting iron. Okay, the knot culture. Now, just deal with this side of the map first. Okay, the knot culture discovered in 1928 in northern Nigeria. So flourished between, some people say it's 900 BC, obviously 1500 BC. And if you can see, culture, Bantu, West African forest people. So, and showing you about the weapons that they had. But on the other map anyway, yeah, that's look at the Bantu map. Now, it goes more further than that. It's a good map, don't get me wrong, it's a good map, but they're in other parts of Africa as well, even where it's not blue. You know, so that's...
I was going to ask you, are they in the north as well?
They are in the north, but actually...
like pockets of them maybe?
There's ones in parts of Sudan. Pockets. There's parts in Ethiopia, Bantus as well. They don't get speaked on. Now, this is my tribe, Ijaw people of Nigeria. The water people. Okay, as you can see, Ijaw is southwest Nigeria. And, you know, look at the style. You got style, those people. Yeah, okay. The Ijaw creation and myths places the origin of humanity at the feet of a supreme being, sometimes called Wayingi or Wayanga, or three different names. Sometimes Tamara. She who creates the womb and its blackness are significant as it celebrates the origin of humanity from a cosmic womb that symbolically celebrates the black womanhood, you know. And it's the indigenous religion of the Ijaw people of Nigeria, the female deity who created the earth. So we're dealing with a matriarchal system.
Yeah, which was uncommon back then.
Yeah, so some people believe like, well, we had a patrilineal system, just matriarchal, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. List of deities of the Yoruba people. As you can see, Shango, god of thunder. You know, you got Ogun, you got Oya, Isu, Ori, very important. Ori's like that. How can I describe it? It's that how can I put it? That super strength that we connect to get our highest self. To when we want to raise ourselves up to that higher self of consciousness, that's what you're dealing with, Ori. You know, that's definitely one of them. But these are just all aspects of the supreme being. The supreme being, you know, call him Oludala. I can't even. You know, Naz's father's surname, Oludama.
Oh yeah, it's hard to pronounce, isn't it?
Yeah, that's meaning like that's connected to God. Kana, Terrence, you been there?
Yeah, look,
how you like it?
Familiar.
How you like it?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
you're gonna go out yourself soon. You said you're gonna go over.
Definitely got to get out there.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Kingdom of Ghana.
Wow,
that looks like Mali a bit, similar architecture. Senegal. Now this is where Sheikh Anta Diop is from. One of our, well, he probably is our greatest scientist. The African Origin of Civilization, Myth or Reality, Sheikh Anta Diop. You know, these are definitely books that I'd advise people to go and get. You know, you want to do some research yourself. The Dogon. Oh, I love these brothers. Mali, the Dogon. Amazing people. The astronomical knowledge goes back at least 3,200 BC with the Dogon. Now, this is an interesting one. Serious A, and, you know, studying out the astronomy. Now, on the other side is Credo Mutwa in the middle. And, you know, they have Zulu shaman Credo Mutwa painted the image of this Nordic extraterrestrial figure. So he's basically saying was the Africa entered, there was a white race a long time ago that entered Africa from another planet or something like that. And later on, then they went or something. Then when they seen the white man come back years later, they assumed that there's a connection. Well, Australian Aborigines have mad stories of they used to paint themselves white, say with the Yoruba people, because they believe white represent death. But when we enter this country, it seems like somebody said black represents death.
Yeah.
When black represents divinity. Timbuktu, 1100 AD. You know, there's still the surviving books. There's people in Timbuktu who had surviving knowledge, you know, who were able to bring this back. Okay, Mauritania, interesting one. Mauritania. Black people in Mauritania. Now, in 1981, that's when slavery stopped, they say. 1981. You know, the Arabs are just treating these people terrible. You know, and
still going on today, isn't it?
Still going on to this day, and it goes on. They do things like in a mental way. You know, it's very tactical how they do things, and they align themselves with Europeans. So that's the thing, you know, for their own benefit. So Mauritania, you know, I feel sorry for our brothers there, and this is why we need a Pan-African connection. Chad, another place people don't talk about. Now, Chad's supposed to have a civilization older than a lot of Africa, because Chad, if you look where it is, the Sahara Desert. Well, imagine one time when that was all lush.
Yeah.
You know, Chad is a very important place of civilization. Old depictions of Morocco, Moors, as you know, I mean, we can deal with more. Okay, as you can see, Morocco, Moors, you know, be about the Moors. Let's go on to Tunisia, Carthage. As you can see, Hannibal. You know, Hannibal is the one who was Rome's nightmare. You know, the history of Hannibal, he's the one who came over on the elephants, and he was a straight up, like, he weren't taking no crap. You know, unfortunately, he committed suicide. You know, he killed himself. Hannibal, anyway, you know, he was a black man. Some people like to depict him as, you know, Phoenicians. The Phoenicians that went to Carthage basically the Semitic type people Phoenicians were. And they say that the Carthaginians are the grandsons and daughters of the Phoenicians, so they would have mixed with indigenous Berbers or indigenous North Africans. Yeah. Okay, Algerian people. I'm trying to find the closest to the original Algerian, you know, not old pale. Libya, the Black Mummy of Libya. Now, we talk about mummifications, and everyone likes to think of Egypt. Oldest mummification is this, and it's 5,500 years ago. Okay. 5,500 years ago, the Black Mummy of Libya. And it's a child, and the DNA on it was sub-Saharan African DNA. So most people who entered North Africa originally would have came from the south. Okay. Hebrews in what we call Israel or Palestine or Jerusalem, the Hebrews. Yeah, so if you look at the depictions, the hair, dreadlocks, we like to associate dreads with Jamaica, don't we? You know, so these Africans and this Canaan would be part of Africa, you know. Yeah, and just old depictions of some of the Canaanite people, you know, as you can see, black people from the more ancient times.